Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. Welcome to this edition of Douglas Now Live. I'm Robert Preston Jr., live in the Douglas Now Live studios on West Walker Street in Douglas. Got a couple of interesting stories I think I want to discuss here this afternoon. But first, before we get to that, where did global warming go? Where did it go? I want it back. It was a much more pleasant place this time of the year when we were concerned about global warming. Someone has let Elsa out of her box, and she is running rampant in South Georgia, and I don't like it. It's late February. It's time for things to start warming up. We're just a couple of days away from March 1st, which is the unofficial, as I declare it, the unofficial first day of spring. And we are about a week and a half away from the time changing. And if you pay attention, if you're outside, you notice it's been getting dark a little bit later and later and later. Actually, since the winter solstice in December, the length of daylight, the amount of daylight has gotten a little bit longer each day. And now you can see a pretty big difference. But in a week and a half, on March 8th, when we spring forward, we will see a big difference. And I, for one, will be very glad for that. We now have baseball games being played. We are close to March 1st. We got to get this cold snap behind us. We get the time changed. Things will start getting right in the world again. All right. And when the reptiles start moving, when we have to move turtles off of the road, when we start getting snake calls and things like that, that, of course, is my favorite time of the year. I've gotten a couple of snake calls this year already. Had one over the weekend, and even going back into January, we had one on a particularly warm day. So anyway, it's getting close. But I tell you what, I'm tired of it. Elsa, go home. Let's get global warming back. It is cold, and I do not like it. Our bank fraud image is not showing up very well today. It's kind of a micro picture there. But we posted a story yesterday. A lot of people had questions about. And I had questions as well. And I've tried to get some of those questions answered to no avail. But I want to talk about this and then go over a few discussions I've had since we posted the story. So this came from the Douglas Police Department's Facebook page. This was a press release that they put out. And it says, over the past month, officers from the Douglas Police Department's Criminal Investigations Unit have worked with the Sparta, Michigan, not Sparta, Georgia. There's a Sparta, Georgia right up the road. But this is Sparta, Michigan Police Department to investigate a scam that targets victims' bank account information. They, in turn, used that information in Douglas. A suspect in this case acted like an employee of the victim's financial institution and ultimately acquired the victim's bank login, account, and transaction card information. The result of this investigation led to multiple felony arrest warrants and search warrants. Coffee County Sheriff's Office, Douglas Coffee County Drug Unit, and Douglas Police Department Special Response Team executed a search warrant on the primary suspect's known residence. Following this, the suspect was found to have just left Douglas and was believed to be in Florida, where the Coffee County Sheriff's Office coordinated with the Florida Highway Patrol to locate and arrest the suspect. The Douglas Police Department would like to thank the Sparta, Michigan Police Department, Sheriff's Office, Florida Highway Patrol, so on and so forth. Now, nobody is saying who got arrested. And people have asked, is this a local bank? And it is not a local bank. From what I have been told, there's not a local institution here. All right. And no one is saying who got arrested and exactly what the charges were and so on and so forth. All right. So I know people read the story and they started asking questions. And of course I get why would you even post this? Well, the police department posted it, so it was important enough for them to try to get the word out. And one thing, and I'll tell you what is important. And yes, knowing who the suspect was, and I believe that information will be released at some point. But what's important to know here is that when this kind of stuff happens, when you're dealing with this kind of financial fraud, bank account numbers, that kind of thing, these are very difficult cases to prove. All right. And most of the time they go unprosecuted. And on the chance that they are prosecuted, it's very hard to get a conviction. So the fact that authorities were able to work this case and they were able to break the case, identify a suspect, and move on making an arrest is pretty significant. So the message here is, if you're a victim of something like this, report it. All right. It's very easy to get cynical and say, well, they're not going to do anything. Nothing's going to happen. It is hard to track this stuff down. It's very difficult to prove. It's very difficult to make a case, but it's not impossible. And your case may be the missing piece that investigators need to tie several other cases together. So it doesn't hurt to report it. It doesn't cost you any money to report it. So if you have been the victim of some kind of scam, please report it. Yeah, it's going to be difficult to make a case. It's going to be difficult to make an arrest, but not impossible. And you could be, the key piece of the puzzle that breaks the case wide open. So I hope we get more information. I've asked more questions. I am awaiting more answers, but I don't have them yet. But it was a story that obviously generated some interest, and people wanted to talk about and had questions about. So we hope to get more. But right now, they're not releasing the identity of the individuals that they're seeking, and maybe we'll get that. Maybe we'll get that pretty quickly. But again, and listen, be very careful who you give your information out to. One good rule of thumb is just don't give out your personal information over the telephone, even if it's an official sounding individual, or if it's an official looking email. I got something last week that was phishing for some account information, and I thought it was a scam. When I see stuff like that, or when I get phone calls, the first thing I think of is this is a scam. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. And I did a screenshot of the message and sent it to somebody I know and said, look, is this a scam? And they said, forward me the email. So I did, and they went through and looked at it a little more closely. And they were pretty sure, based on the screenshot, it was a scam. But once I forwarded the email to them, they said, yes, this is very much a scam. Don't reply to it. Don't respond to it. Don't do anything to it. So I didn't. I deleted it and moved on. But reputable institutions are not going to call you and ask you for this kind of information. All right. And that's another reason why I like to deal with banks, where if I don't, I may not necessarily know the person who's calling me, but I can call someone at my bank and verify. Okay. Because I primarily use two banks. One is a local bank, and the other is a bank that has a local office here, but is part of a larger company. But I know people in the local office. So if I get a call from the large company and they're asking me for information, I will not give it to them. I'll say, I'm going to check with my local branch, and then I will get back with you. And if they say, yeah, that's fine, no problem, here's a number, then you're getting closer to it being legit. But if they try to steer you away from that, no, you don't need to do that. Just go ahead and give it to me now. I wouldn't be trying to mislead you. Then you should really, the red flag should really go up and say, wait a minute. You shouldn't be giving information out over the telephone. All right. But again, we don't know all the details, but we're trying to find out. But that's and I saw it, and we posted it. And it's a pretty good story. But it does leave more questions than answers. But the biggest message here is that while it is difficult, it is not impossible to prosecute these cases. So if you or someone has been targeted in this way, please report it. Please report it. You never know. Nothing may happen, but something very much could. And people who do this need to be locked up and the key thrown away. A couple of sports things to talk about. First of all, I know you look at Douglas Now right now, and you see a lot of sports stories. And this is a time of the year when there is a lot of sports. We've got and CCA baseball hasn't even started. When they start, that will be 3 different baseball teams we're following that play 3 to 4 games a week. You also have golf and track and tennis. We're finishing up basketball. The college is finishing up basketball. You have college softball because in college, softball is a spring sport. In high school, it's a fall sport. So all this stuff is going on. So we will be very sports heavy from now till the end of the school year. And it seems kind of funny maybe that we're talking about the end of the school year already. But listen, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we are almost in March. School will be over with in a couple of months. I mean, it really will. We're going to be in spring break here in April. And then after spring break, listen, everybody, I don't care who you are. You put it on cruise control after spring break. All right. I'm not saying you should, but, you really can see the light at the end of the tunnel after spring break. But all this is happening. You're about to start seeing a lot of academic stories, the academic awards and scholarships and that kind of thing. So the cool part about this is this is a time when we really celebrate our students. Now, we try to do a good job, as good a job as we can with sports throughout the year, but it gets very heavy in the spring, and you have your spring sports along with your academic awards. So this is a time of good news. We always get hammered for not doing enough good news, but this is a time of good news and a time when we celebrate successes probably more so than any other time of the year. And it's with our kids, it's with our students, our student athletes, and also our students, not just those who play sports, but those who have excelled in the classroom. So this is a pretty cool time of the year. And if you don't like sports, you're not a big sports fan, bear with us, but look for the positives. And of course, the positives are that this is a time when we celebrate our successes. Coffee High Baseball just wrapped up a pretty cool weekend, the first ever Georgia-Florida Invitational. We had Coffee High and 5 other teams playing, 3 teams from Georgia, 3 teams from Florida. Coffee went undefeated on the weekend, the only team, I believe, that went undefeated, but we were unable to play our last game. Weather came in, and we know how volatile the weather is. I was joking about it at the beginning of the live stream here, but this time of the year, weather is very volatile, and we hit a weekend for the Georgia-Florida Invitational when rain was in the forecast, and it came. And it was a little late getting here, but when it did, it didn't stop. So yeah, the rain got in the way, but it was a really, really good weekend of baseball. And Coach Grove, Coffee High head baseball coach Scott Grove, wants to see this grow. He wants to turn this into a major event on the best teams in our state's calendar. All right. And I would like to see that. It would be pretty cool. You get really good teams in Georgia. You got really good teams in Florida. Come up here and play. It would be nice to be able to use multiple fields, right? Because they did everything out at Charles Wilson Field. But what if it grew so much that we had to use the college's field? What if we had to go into neighboring counties and play? That would be pretty cool. And it could happen. It really could. But it was a lot of fun. So congratulations to the Trojans. We did a write-up on it if you want to read more information. I'm not going to go blow by blow with the games. We did that on the website. You can take a look at that. Some kids played really well, had some really strong performances. On the college side of things, South Georgia State baseball in second place with a conference schedule about to begin. That starts next week. Region schedule for the Trojans also begins next week. And basketball has 4 more games left, and they're in second place. They're in a really good position to make a run through the tournament. South Georgia State college basketball does a phenomenal job once the postseason gets here. And if they win the tournament, then they head to Hutchinson, Kansas for the national tournament. And they've been quite a bit. I think 3 out of the last 5 years or something like that. They've been to the national tournament. So South Georgia State college basketball is in a really good position right now. So it's going to be fun to watch these last 4 regular season games and then get into the postseason. Now, one thing that is pretty interesting here, tomorrow, if you are a basketball fan, all right, and our bank fraud graphic was a little small, these are a little large, but we have 4 high school basketball teams playing state playoff games tomorrow. I don't know if that's ever happened before. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we couldn't figure out if it had happened before or not. If it has, and I'm not saying it hasn't, but if it has not happened very often. It hasn't happened very much. But you have Coffee High boys and Coffee High girls playing Sprayberry here at the Coffee High gym tomorrow. And then you have the CCA boys and the CCA girls playing tomorrow at ABAC. Now, they're in the Final Four. This is the semifinals. So the winners advance to the state championships, the state championship games in Columbus on Friday. So if CCA wins tomorrow, one or both of their teams win tomorrow, then they will advance to play for a state title at Columbus State on Friday. This is the first round of the GHSA state playoffs. So the Trojans, boys and girls, both have a long way to go. But you have 4 local high school basketball teams playing for state titles on the same day, and really just 50 miles apart. It's not that far over to Tifton, so 50 miles apart. Now you can see here 5 o'clock tomorrow at the Coffee High gym. The girls will play first. The boys here will play following the girls' game. So give it an hour and a half or so, probably 7:30. The boys will start playing against Sprayberry. Now, what is interesting here, because we're going to have this discussion, we've talked about it a little bit, but we haven't had an opportunity to really look at a real-world example of how things will be different next year. All right, so you can see here that our team, the Trojans, Region 2, Team 2 out of Region 2. Sprayberry Yellow Jackets, Team 3 out of Region 6. Because we're the number 2 team out of our region, they're the number 3 team, they travel to us. But next year, that will not be the case. Next year, the GHSA is going to a power rankings format. We've talked about this many times. But this is how it would work out this year. All right? Now, even though we're the number 2 seed, the number 2 team, and Sprayberry's the number 3 team, if we were using power rankings, we would be traveling to Sprayberry. All right? And this is using the Max Preps rankings. The GHSA's power rankings will be a little bit different. Now, the GIA, what CCA plays under, uses Max Preps. The GHSA has its own formula. It's very similar to Max Preps, but they tweak it a little bit. So, and if you compare the way the GHSA would do it and the way that Max Preps does it, they're pretty close, but you'll find a team or two, that's ranked a little differently in one poll over the other. But it's pretty close. And in the case of Sprayberry and Coffee, I don't think the differences would be enough to alter the rankings significantly. So, Max Preps, our boys, even though we're number 2 seed, our boys are ranked 25th. All right. And I believe that the Sprayberry boys are ranked number 11th in Max Preps power rankings. So again, you take the region standings aside, you've got everybody lumped together. So us as a 2 seed out of our region, overall, we're 25th. Sprayberry, a number 3 seed out of their region, ranked number 11. So if we were using the power rankings model that we will be next year, we would be traveling to Sprayberry. We would not be having a home game. Now, the girls would still be having a home game because the girls are ranked number 8, and the Sprayberry girls are ranked number 15. So our girls are still ahead of them. So Sprayberry's girls would still be coming down here, but we would not. And people would be asking, well, wait a minute, we finished number 2. We almost won the region. We took the region champion to overtime. Why do we have to travel? Because they're not using the region format. That's how it works. That's how it would work in the real world. Now, I mentioned that the GHSA tweaks things a little bit. They do a different type of system than Max Preps. And that is true. But when you're dealing with a team, Sprayberry boys at number 11, Coffee boys at number 25, there's not enough of a difference in how the GHSA would do it to swap those two. That's a 14-point difference in the rankings. You're talking about maybe differences being 1 or 2 rankings, not 14. So even under the GHSA system, Coffee would not leapfrog Sprayberry's boys. So next year, if we were in this same situation, even as a number 2 seed, we would not be hosting the playoff game for the boys. We would for the girls. And this is the way it's going to be in all sports, where you play head-to-head in the postseason. I'm not talking about cross country or track or swimming, even golf, where a bunch of teams go and have one big tournament or one big meet at the same location. That's those schools shouldn't be affected, or those sports shouldn't be affected. But softball, baseball, football, basketball, tennis, all right, those sports will. Soccer would be affected. Any team sport, flag football, all of that, all right? And I know if we end up, in the region being ahead of another team and we have to travel, folks are going to wonder what happened. Why? And this happened at CCA. I've used this example before. A couple of years ago in baseball, CCA won the region. All right? Won the region. The team that they beat for the region championship, was a couple tenths of a point or something, just slightly ranked slightly higher than them, less than a point, just fraction of a point. But because of that, CCA had to travel. It was Southwest Georgia Academy down in Damascus. I believe that's it. CCA had to travel down there and play and got beat. And I believe it's a different outcome if we play up here. I didn't know GIAA used that system at the time. I remember thinking, okay, well, CCA's region champion, we're going to be playing at home. And then I found out, no, we're playing down there. So wait a minute. I had to get somebody to explain it to me. But that's the way it's going to be in the GHSA. Now, in the single A through triple A classifications, they've been doing that. Georgia High School Association has been experimenting with this for a couple of years. But this year they're going to all classifications. So Fitzgerald and Irwin and Appling and Berrien and those schools have been playing under this system for the last couple of years, but we have not. This year we will. And it's going to cause some confusion if you don't know what's going to happen. But that's what would be happening here. The Coffee Boys would not be playing at home under this current system. We would be traveling to play Sprayberry, even though they're a third seed out of their region. They're ranked higher than us, which means when you lump everybody together, they're a pretty good basketball team. And the Trojans are going to have their hands full tomorrow night when they play. The girls are ranked ahead of Sprayberry's girls. But if you remember what happened last year, our girls played Winder Bear and beat the brakes off of them in the first round. Then we ran into a buzzsaw in our second round game, and it was pretty wild. So, yeah, basketball's a little different. We have a hard time. South Georgia teams have a hard time competing at state level in basketball. It's one of those sports where there really is a significant advantage in the metro area. But, yeah, that power rankings are going to change things up a little bit. One thing I believe the GHSA does that maybe the GIAA doesn't, GHSA, I think, has more protections in place for region champions. I don't think you're going to see a situation in the GHSA like we had with CCA, where we won the region and still had to travel. I think, if anybody knows, either let me know I'm right or wrong in the comments, but I think there are more protections in place for region champions under the GHSA's system than under GIAA. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. And, next year, for those who are not familiar with how this has been done, it's going to take some getting used to. Let's take a look at our tower cam as we wrap up, like we always do. It's a beautiful day here. Warmed up a little bit. It was cold this morning. Supposed to warm up steadily toward the weekend. I think we're going to have I haven't looked that far ahead, but I think it's going to get significantly warmer, and we ought to usher in the month of March on a reasonably good note. But yeah, it's a beautiful day outside. It really is. The last couple of days have been really pretty once we got that rain out of the way over the weekend, but it's just been cold, and I don't like cold. I know we're going to have some more cold weather. We're getting close to Easter, what we are, about 6 weeks out now, and there's always a really good cold snap before Easter. After that, you can really put your jacket away. You're not going to need it after that. But But we can at least get somewhat used to warm weather heading in. But yeah, it's a beautiful day. So again, we haven't done very many of our videos during the day here lately, so we haven't gotten a good look. I'm waiting during the day to see deer. All right, because we do catch deer walking around occasionally out here, and I've seen some actually in our parking lot, but no deer yet. So, but they're there. They really are. All right. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. We appreciate it. Again, I hope some of our discussion today answered a few questions you might have, particularly about that bank fraud story. We're trying to find out more about that. And as soon as we have more information, we will let you know. And yes, I'm still wearing my purple women's glasses, kind of going for the Sally Jesse Raphael look. Y'all remember her? If you don't, look her up. You would be surprised at the similarities between these glasses and hers. Y'all have a good day. We'll see you next time.